I think if you really spent time drilling down on what gratitude is, it's not what you think it is.
I know.
The door into understanding what gratitude is or feeling what gratitude is firstly being able to look at things and as honestly and accurately as possible describe what they are. Is being able to try to say the truth as best you can, as best you understand it, and also be as honest as possible about your capacity to even say it. So this is like, this record is, this is what I think it is. This is my best attempt. I'm aware of my limitations in understanding and describing, but this is as true as I can get.
Andy, hi.
Hey, Radi.
We are chatting about your new record. It came out this week, right?
Yeah, mere days ago.
Amazing. And I thought it would be really cool, and because I know how confident and comfortable you are on keys, I thought it'd be kind of cool to have you talk me through some of the songs, your approach to the structure, you know, their meaning, just a kind of, it's such an introspective record.
Thank you.
I've listened to it quite a number of times now, and there are certainly a couple of standouts.
Well, I mean, the first record I did was, I mean, it's going back now, but I had a major label deal and I did this big pop sort of extravaganza thing. Finally, you know, it shares some DNA with this record.
Okay.
But that was called We're Too Young. And that was my first recorded thing. I'd been making music before then, and I'd been doing lots of shows, lots of club shows around Sydney, particularly Darlinghurst, King's Cross, that kind of thing. And what I had been doing live was actually quite different to what ended up on that first album, which was a real, you know, epic to make. That, you know, your first record is like, you want it to do so much. Deal. But then I put out another body of work, which I think of as like a mini album, but I called it the Phantom Pains EP.
Okay.
And that was more based around a piano trio. So it was me on, mostly piano, Nick Weaver, who passed away recently, on bass, and Carlos Adura on drums. And that had a song on it called Dog that went quite well on radio, and then that kind of launched really big live touring part of my career. So I did hundreds of shows off the back of that. And then a couple of years after that, I did Sea of Approval, and that was, but that was my big kind of breakthrough.
Sure.
And that was the first time I had attempted to not just write and perform, but to actually produce a record.
Okay.
So that involved me going into a studio for about 18 months, maybe a little longer.
Were you doing home recording at that point?
It was that whole record revolved around, it was maybe one or even two, but mainly one studio session where I just collected drums, drum sounds and things like that. And then the rest was me just trying to like hash it out on my own, which was, you know, the outcome was really good, but it was quite a solitary experience. And definitely by the end of it, although I was very proud of what I had managed to do, and when I listen to it now, I'm like, oh wow, this is really interesting.
Listening back,
totally,
is such a weird thing.
It is, and I'm taken back to all these conversations I was having in my head at the time about these sounds of this song, and how do I solve this problem, and where do I take this, like all the kind of stuff that was keeping me up at night. And now I've forgotten all of those conversations, and I just hear the music, and it surprises me because it's actually all the intensity of those internal dialogues yielded some really, some really interesting music that now takes me by surprise. So
the freshness returns.
The freshness returns. And this is key to the whole question of the creative process. Is it's not a matter of tools. It's not even a matter of ideas. It's a matter of perspective. Particularly if you're recording on your own. There's kind of a limit each day of work you can do before your perspective starts to lose its integrity. And then that's when you have to be able to build in another part of the process, which is the like breathing out. And I think if you can build a process that incorporates in really solid, thorough engagement with recovery, it's like high intensity training, right? You've got to like...
or the in-breath and out-breath. I mean, you can apply that yin-yang principle to anything.
I mean, there's also a time and a place to just go hard and totally destroy yourself doing something
for sure.
But I didn't want to do that exactly again. with this current record. I knew I would have to build life into it and
Yeah.
take better care of myself and of the process. It started with just lots of instrumental music. That went on for about 1.5 years, but then it was like circumstance answered that whole question of like, how do I have a life that's not just me and my product, and then all this other stuff happened in life. So children, parents, like family stuff, a whole.
A lot of that's in the record.
It's all in the record. So
I'm hearing it in there.
Yeah, it all became part of it. But that I had to decide what I was going to make the focus.
Okay. And was there a track on the new record that opened up, because often that is the case, where not that every record is a concept album, you know, and I wouldn't even call it a concept album, except it's got this, it's very beautiful, delightful introspection. I know that it went over a period of time. I can hear you talking about the people. I mean, it's called People You Love. If we didn't mention that, you know, we're talking about Andy Bull's new record, People You Love. And there's nothing more important than the people in your life. I mean, you know, it's such a massive theme. Was there a moment when you recognized you were now on the next body of work?
The only thing that was inspiring to me was to think, how can I take what's good about what I've just done, but bring it into a very different world? And the first answer to that was, well, maybe bring some other people into the process. Okay. This is a record that's about, like I said, I was sick of my whole life being about me. And I realized, to your point, that a life is lived through connection, not just to yourself, but to the world around you and the people around you. Yeah. And that, I thought, the way to make that something you could hear would be to involve other people, so other musicians, so you could hear their musicianship, the musicianship of people who were close to me, who I'd been playing all these shows with. And then also to bring it into more of a real sounding space. So sonically, just a real sounding space, as opposed to in the kind of intense constraints of bedroom production, which had served Sieve Approval really well because it was about an intense internal environment. Right. This had to be more about a space that you hold literally for other people, and then also the space you hold figuratively for your relationships with other people and all the complex feelings you might have about your life and other people. And to say that life is full of paradoxes, sometimes hypocrisy, but certainly ambivalence and mixed feelings, but to hold a place for all that to be, and then to say, it's all here, it's all of those things, but it's still a good thing. Yeah. I still feel optimistic and enthusiastic about all of this.
There's also a sense of gratitude throughout the work.
Gratitude.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is, it's a fascinating concept, because I think if you really spent time drilling down on what gratitude is, it's not what you think it is.
I know.
It's not. In fact, gratitude is like everything you associate with gratitude. In my mind, it had been like, oh, it's like when life is really shit, but you have to pretend to be like grateful for it anyway. Like, well, at least I'm still here. But it's not that.
No, it's not that at all.
And I wouldn't even attempt to answer what gratitude is. But I think the only way into gratitude, or the door into understanding what gratitude is or feeling what gratitude is firstly being able to look at things and as honestly and accurately as possible describe what they are. Mm-hmm. And in fact, I think that's the basis of even having an interesting life, or even being an interesting person, is being able to try to say the truth as best you can, as best you understand it, and also be as honest as possible about your capacity to even say it. So this record is, this is what I think it is. This is my best attempt. I'm aware of my limitations in understanding and describing, but this is as true as I can get.
Yeah, that's the journey of the artist, Andy.
I think so. Yeah. And it's always just changing and slipping out of your fingers.
That's right.
Yeah.
So on that point, let's...
Well, People You Love might be a good... Okay. It certainly wasn't the first song, but it was one of the early ones. But it was a song about, if I can remember how to play it. It was about having mixed feelings about the people you love, which I think is...
Some of the lyrics are fantastic. Yeah.
But still loving them. It's and anyway, so I guess I'll let the music do talking.
Let's see what happens.
I wanted to try to do something as if you put like, if you go to SoundCloud and you like put some of these songs on SoundCloud and the AI generates an analysis of what the genre is, a lot of it's like pop, R&B, alternative, but this one comes up as Americana, which is really, I don't know how they figured this out, but I wanted to do something that was as simple as possible.
Yeah,
quarterly, traditional, So we started in E major, of course, but she's always in a mood, and I'm always wired. I don't know what to do. I've used every word I know to use. So that's that thing. It's like if you're gonna rip into other people, you have to rip into yourself too. That's part of the deal. Yeah. First and foremost, it's you I want to satisfy. I tire myself with worry. What I give you, don't forget. Each hope and every regret. But it's hard to admit just what you think of the people you love, the people you love. And if you want to rescind your need to control, why don't you start with the people you love? With the people that you love to love.
Yeah, you're touching on so much there that is the growth and development of the human condition, the psyche, what we are. We start to understand how important the people in our lives are. We start to touch on elements of control and how interesting they are when we acknowledge and recognize that we've been fucking around like this our entire lives.
Love and control are not the same thing.
They are not the same thing.
Yeah.
And then making self-admissions about think. I mean, the word think is such an interesting one, and I don't want to get too philosophical about it, but admitting that we may not sometimes like the things that we think or the things that people do that are the people that we love, and that is that paradox there is a motherfucker.
It's the kind of thing that you will generally only admit to yourself, because if you were to admit it out loud about the people you love or yourself, then you have become so vulnerable. You can risk you could risk destroying everything.
That's right.
And so this is a really hard thing to reconcile, is when you know something in your heart about who you are or the people around you, and it's true, how honest can you be in life? Like, it's not an easy, I'm not of the belief that you should just be like, you should strive to be authentic all the time.
Sure.
Because the definition of authenticity is not a fixed thing.
No.
And there's a place and a time for honesty that won't just like eviscerate your entire world. So that's the art of life, I think.
Well, when it's in the form of art, you can always be forgiven for saying that was a moment in time. I wrote this, you inspired me, don't be angry, my dear, Well,
this might be my dear, my love.
My love.
This might actually be the reason why we have to have art in
the
music.
outlets. Yeah.
It's the only safe, forgivable place sometimes.
That's right.
Yeah.
Most artists are writing about everything that they love. I mean, that's just the truth of it, even if it's a couple of steps away. But what I loved about this record is that not only have you said it in the title, it's right there, in every track. So,
I'm glad that can be heard, because
absolutely.
that was certainly the intent.
Yeah. On that point, let's hear something else, man. Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, this is when I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with this record.
Okay.
And I was first coming out of that period where I wasn't singing at all. I had a friend who had a piano, and I was like, "Can I just come and play your piano for a little bit? I'm trying to work out if I can still write songs." And this is one of the first things that sort of started to very gently emerge. I haven't actually played this since I wrote it, believe it or not, so we'll see how we go. This is Idiot's Dream. What looked like freedom was only the start of a slower decline. How was I to know? Now I'm waiting in a line, waiting in a line, waiting in a line. I wait in a line. How was I going to know? Living in an idiot's dream, seeing what an idiot sees. I know what I am. I know what I am. Oh, I know what I am. And what I am is aimless and high, born to die. Oh, why don't you act more surprised? Oh, living in an idiot's dream, am I too much of a man to cry, but righteous and justified, but too apathetic to cry? Oh, living in an idiot's dream, am I? Something like that.
Yeah, it's lovely.
You get the raw, honest experience. As I try to remember these chords, you get the gist.
Yeah. Well, you're not afraid of moving around.
Yeah. That sounds like a backhanded compliment, Radi. A lot of chords in there, mate. No, that's that guy, that one guy who said lyrics don't matter. He made the same thing. The comment goes, a lot of chords in there.
A lot of chords in there.
I said, mate, will you write it next time, pal?
Sorry, what was that track?
That was called Idiot's Dream.
Yeah.
Mm.
I watched a Eckhart Tolle video recently where he talked about the concept of the fool.
Oh yes, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And how the Hobbit is the fool in the story whose ego is not developed enough to have any problems with bigger evil because he just deals with the world quite simply.
I love the idea of the archetypes because you know, if you do like the Facebook quiz, like what archetype are you? As if you're one thing all the time.
Of course, yeah.
But no, it's this whole, because it's the Jungian archetypes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it's a cycle that you're going through all the time. And you always necessarily begin as the fool. But if you don't begin as the fool, you don't begin.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be the fool. That's the thing about the fool, is only the fool embarks on the journey.
Yeah.
Because if he was aware of the risks or had the ego that could be destroyed,
he wouldn't
begin. And if you don't take the first step, you can't eventually end up as whatever it is, the wizard or whatever.
The king or the wizard.
The king or the philosopher or whatever you meant to end up as.
Yeah.
I take these things with a grain of salt, but I think there's something really cool about that notion.
Yeah, oversimplified, but it touches something.
At the beginning of every album you make, you are the fool.
Yeah.
But I think there's something to accepting that.
Yeah.
And to know that you are the fool, I think is good.
Yep.
And to understand, because then you can, if you know where you are and who you are, it does inoculate you somewhat against being totally dismembered by the process that's running you through that cycle.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of Zen that comes into the simple fact that not knowing is the key to a deeper understanding at any point. Saying, I don't know. It's okay going into this. I don't know.
Yes, and to sit with that uncertainty is very useful when you're writing music.
It is,
as well as living generally. And
look, we are here talking about the album. Are you doing some shows? Because we should. What happens next in the life cycle of this record?
I've just done some shows. So I didn't do everything from the new record because it wasn't out when I did the shows.
Okay.
Because the record's only a few days old.
Yeah.
But I did some of them. And I'm hoping very, very much to bring the whole album, anywhere I can take it in 2023.
Yeah.
So I'm really, while I am, I'm accepting of the kind of the non-linearity of the process of putting out music and finding an audience for it. I'm also deeply ambitious that this should connect with people, because I would love to play it for people everywhere. And the shows are really beautiful when I remember the chords. But the shows are really, it's my most favorite thing to do, and I think it's starting to, for people who come along, it's starting to feel like a very personal thing for the people who come along.
Awesome.
And so I would really like to, if I could, I would play every other night of the week,
Yep.
you know what I mean? Forever. So I'm just hoping that if people hear this album and it lands with them and it resonates with them, they might tell someone about it who might also feel the same way. I don't think that, you know, if you're starting out as a musician, you might think that if you got on some playlist or some radio station, or you got a major label deal or something like this, then there's some top-down power that will tell everyone that this is the thing to listen to. And that, to a degree, that's true. You do get coverage, but music lives between individuals.
It does, yeah.
And no music means as much to me as the music that my best friend send me and say, listen to this. Yeah. The context of a friendship, a text message rather than a playlist.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the context where music lives. And I think if you were a marketing guy, you'd call that grassroots or something. But I think grassroots. It always reminds me of like Blues and Roots Festival, grassroots. This isn't blues and roots, but the grassroots or human, like individual connection. I think that's how music is spread. So I'm hoping that people who hear it will feel strongly enough about it that they might tell someone they love, because then there's people I can come and play to. And I just so hope to play this everywhere in 2023.
Yeah, I hope so too. Yeah. Well, on that note, let's thank you for coming in, and it would be great to hear one last.
Yeah, man. Okay, this is going to be a song called "Trying to Convince You."
All right. Another great one.
Another great one. It's a banger. This is the ballad version of that song. This is funny. You talked about Eckhart Tolle before. I remember being in the depths of despair because I'd followed this girl overseas. This is a long time ago. Okay. And I was feeling terrible, and I was in London and it was dark and rainy, and I walked into a bookshop.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, believe it or not. And then I walked in this bookshop and I found this book just on a whim. It was an Eckhart Tolle book. Yeah. And I read it, and for like a week I felt like invincible. I felt like, oh, this solves all my questions. Yeah. So that informed.
Is that the lyric?
Yeah, it goes like this.
I guess that's what you meant.
You know, I read that book. Well, I listened to the tape. For a minute I thought I had the secret to escape. Yeah. And then Beck Sandwich sings this line. Yeah. You know you could be anything. Yeah, baby, wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be great? And if I did what you did, I might make what you make. But I chose not to. I guess that was my mistake. But I know that I'm real. I think you might be a fake. Think you might be a fake. But here am I, telling all my stories to you. The things that I perceive. Trying to convince you of things I'm not even sure that I believe. I'm like a wave in space, like I really oscillate. I give about as much as anyone should have to take. And then it's all gone.
But it's a great lyric, and the sentiment is such an interesting one, and we do that. We do all of those things, don't we?
I was thinking about what is this song? It's someone, you know, there's that meme of the guy in the club and he's like vigorously explaining someone in the girl's ear, and she's like totally bored by what he's saying. It's like this guy, this conversation happens on a dance floor maybe, and the guy thinks that if he can convince you of himself and his opinions, that he might start to believe them himself. Yeah. That's what this song is trying to convince you.
Lovely. All right, well, Andy, thanks so much for coming into Happy again. And,
my pleasure, Radi. It's so good to be here.
On the new record.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, People You Love. It's a wonderful record for everybody out there. Check it out. The title track for me was the absolute cracker, but it's littered with gems, to be perfectly honest. And can't wait to see what happens next year. We want to get you out there on the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, people need to hear it.
That'd be awesome.
All right.
Thanks, Radi.
Cheers.
Colton.
So 3 mastering engineers.
Yeah, because I was like, no one fucking cares. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like that's totally like a faux pas, but I was like, I don't think anyone's gonna give a shit. I don't.
Yeah.
And I even did things like, once I got the masters back, on a couple of them I did very speed on the masters. Yeah. It was just like, it doesn't matter. Yeah. It really doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.